we're finally going to get a visual change to X now.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. And we took a brief break in recording, so all of our angry story momentum has kind of dropped off. I'm sure it'll come back pretty shortly.
Just as soon as Colonel shows up.
Yeah, that'll be it.
But that's a nice background.
Yeah. So I mentioned it in the alternate run, too. I actually think it this same stage. But I think, in my opinion, this is like the last hurrah of good sprite backgrounds for the games.
Yeah, they kind of go to shit.
So, one of the things, I think I sort of touched on it earlier, and pardon me if I end up... Or, well, no, this first. So, one of the main things that I always like talking about is that Dr. Light's capsule holograms are obviously an AI that's, like, aware of current events and stuff like that. Because this... Just obviously, there's no way to misconstrue this as a pre-recorded message. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. He's even referencing how it doesn't make sense from a conflict standpoint. Like, this has to be some kind of a mistake. So I really like the idea of, Light is still watching over X and making sure that, hey, I'm dead, but this is still something that I need to be involved with, too, to make sure that everything works out in the end, which I really genuinely love, and I think this is the first one that, really shows that off.
I wonder if it's a digital copy, or if he put his brain in a jar somewhere.
I'd be willing to say digital copy. Mostly just because that's a little bit more, family-friendly, which, as dark as the series gets, it's usually more in that direction. But yeah, so now we've got the boots
I like
for
that
the
you can see the outline of the completed armor during the flash.
Yeah.
Probably just sprite limitations, but...
Yeah. So, some fun trivia. This one is typically called the fourth armor, which is normal, because it's the fourth armor that X gets, not counting the Hyper Max or the things from the Game Boy games. But there's some typos in certain instances that call it the Force armor because of English translation. So, it's kind of got two names because of that. And this is also the first game that names armors, period. But it's the Ultimate Armor that gets named because of, password entry. They don't actually start getting named in-game 100% until 5.
What do the boots do exactly?
So these ones kind of augment the air dash by making it so that when you jump, and then you jump again in the air, rather than doing another dash, and I think you also get the air dash from it, you can hover, so there's just little vernier jets that come out of the soles of his feet, which I think is really cool. And you can sustain it for about 6 seconds if you don't move at all, or for 2 seconds if you move, and you can kind of scoot forward and back, and you won't turn around when you're doing it. So if you're hovering and you're facing right, if you go left, you just back up, so you can kind of use it to expand your combat mobility, which is actually a lot of fun. I'll do it in the Colonel fights.
Some sort of hover moonwalk,
basically. But yeah, I like that. It's another good natural boost, or dash upgrade. So you go from the dash to the air dash to kind of a more vertical air dash, which didn't work that well, and this one is just alright, we'll make it so that you have more control, which I think is cool. I like the fourth armor personally. I also kind of prefer calling it the Force armor, it makes it sound cooler, but it's wrong. So unless I'm getting that backwards, which is a very real possibility. I don't think that is listed by name in the art book. No, it is not.
Great,
but there is some good artwork of it.
Think of all places it would be named there.
It might be in the expanded art book, which I still haven't picked up yet. They did a re-release that had all of the stuff from Mega Man 9 and 10, and then all of the X stuff with some additional things thrown into one huge re-release of the book.
Nice.
Yeah. It's called Mega Man 20 plus 5 or something like that. There's a lot of books I need.
Look out for that giant laser.
The secret weapon of the jungle! I love, there's 3 secret weapons in this game. It's lazy as shit.
I love this guy's dialogue.
I'll just let you cover that if you want that.
It's he's clearly calling his own, I'm not a fucking maverick. This is all on you guys. Why the fuck is any of this going on?
Yeah.
And he even tells us, just leave. Don't want to have to fight you. Just get the hell out of here. Yeah. But then you murder him.
it's so close to being right. The only reason that I'm as hard on 4 as I am is because, A, everybody really likes it, and that kind of comes off to me as like a blind liking of it, or like a nostalgia goggles thing, but mostly because it has the potential to be like the single best story out of all 10 or 11 if you count Command Mission of the X games, and it just doesn't do a good job of it. Like, it's sloppy, and it's like, you're so close. Like, I'm more disappointed than anything, because by all rights, I should absolutely love this one, and I just don't. It's too rocky.
Do a really good political thriller with this one, and you could vastly change, like, the course of the entire X series, kind of like what Fusion did, except nothing came after Metroid Fusion, so... You know, if the same thing happened to us, at least we wouldn't get X7.
Nah, that's true. Yeah, it's mostly just like there's very noticeable wasted potential, and it bothers me. Like, it just makes me uncomfortable going through it because I can only pick out what should have been versus what actually is. And then there's like gameplay mechanic stuff too. Like, I'm not super crazy about some of the weakness weapons in this one. This is kind of where they start to decline a little more sharply, but that varies from game to game, so that's not really worth saying. Plus, there's playstyle preferences. But then, like, the weird art style transition just doesn't feel right to me. There's a lot of, like, characters that are introduced that you're supposed to care about, but you just literally can't because they're only in this game. Like, there's too many problems.
Oh boy.
But yeah, so this, I'll be waiting for you, right? Just, like, fucking come show up. Oh, also, before we go into that, fucking Guerrilla Commander of the Thick Forest Web Spider.
Excellent.
Got a little sidetrack there. But yeah, so he straight up says, come here, I'll be waiting for you. X is like, hey, we probably shouldn't do this, and it's just like, I really don't want to fight. It's like, we really want to fight. It's just like, you're the worst. Also, this battle doesn't determine shit.
We will end this here and now with our fists. Oh, you beat me? Well, fuck you. I'm just going to keep...
Yeah, exactly. It's crappy.
Colonel, please. God damn it.
Also, his attack patterns are really boring in this one. Like, you can do this super easily. The second one at least speeds up those swings, so it's a little harder to, like, carnival your way through stuff. Or obstacle course, or whatever you want to call it. But this fight hurts my thumb because of how often I'm holding charge and getting ready to jump and hover. Like, I'm just doing this, like, rigid thumb shit the entire time, and it's just like, just do something else. Like, in the other fights, it's mixed up because, like, I'm dashing around and jumping off of stuff, and in this one, it's just literally just jump and hover and shoot, and maybe you'll dash a little bit, but only sometimes, and even when you do, it's still really mechanical, and it's just... It's not organic, and it's not fun, and I don't like this fight.
He should always be using his weakness weapon.
No, his weakness weapon makes it worse, in my opinion. He's weak to Frost Tower, which means you need to be, like, right on top of him, and, like, when he's dashing, he's completely intangible. It's not even that he's invincible. You can stand there, and he'll dash through you, and it won't do anything to you, which is kind of neat, because bosses don't usually do that. But it just means that the only openings to hit him are when the moment he teleports in like that, or... once he stops there...
And turns around.
Yeah, and then once he's guarding, he's invincible again, and then after that, he either disappears again or goes into the sword wave things that you can't conveniently dodge when you're that close to him. So it's just this matter of, like, why? Why would I want to be in melee distance of him ever, for any reason? Like, the problem that I have with that weakness weapon is it's another instance, and the series has this happen a lot, where it's just not conductive to how the boss works in general, and that's what should matter. It's like, this boss is weak to this weapon because it shoots at this angle and has this effect, but Frost Tower is just like, I don't know, that's it, we just chose it, and that's why. It's like, but why, though? Like, Soul Body would be really interesting.
Yeah, there's a few times where it's just like, well, don't have anything else where I'm going to be weak to, fuck it.
Basically.
Rather than
and that's the thing, is
around
like,
the weapon.
Exactly. And, I mean, he could be a really cool fight. This is one of my least favorite things. Like, I like the not spiral staircase parts of this level. It's actually one of my favorites, but the spiral staircase is just so lazy. Like, it's so unbelievably lazy that to the point where I stopped fighting enemies because there's no visual cues as to when stuff is going to come up. It's just all the exact same. Like, there's probably maybe 4 frames of animation to that background or some shit. And it's just, why is this here? And then they do it twice with a palette swap. They actually have the balls to be like, this is new. We made it purple this time. It's like, no! It was crappy the first time you did it. This stage is already kind of long enough as it is. Just make more laboratory stuff. Like, don't add something like this. It's bad. It doesn't look good. It doesn't play well. It's shitty, and it just makes me want to run through it to get it over with. But then these parts come up, and they're fun. So...
And then the staircase comes back in the next one.
And it's worse. They somehow didn't learn from it. They went in reverse.
Well, they did that with a lot of things going forward.
I know, but either way. Also, sometimes, and it really only comes up in this level, there's a weird delay when you get off ladders and try to let go of a charge shot. Sometimes it'll come out slower, and other times it'll just erase the charge shot entirely, and you just won't have one. So, like, you'll go to time shooting at one of those beetle enemies, and then, like, you go to shoot, and nothing comes out, and you're like, what the fuck? And then it just runs into you, which isn't a huge problem, especially if you know about it, but it's still, like, at this point, this run was, like, my last X4 run, so I've played through it, like, maybe 6 times at this point recently, counting the other recording that we did. And I still get hit by a couple of them because of it, even though I'm, like, actively anticipating it. It's just like, son of a bitch. Also, this is me trying to hit it with Twin Slasher, which it looks like you could do if it weren't speedy. It kind of messes up the platform usage. Ideally, I would end on that one, but I still do it just fine. I like this mini-boss, and I don't know why. Because objectively, it's kind of boring, but I like beetles and stuff, and I think it's just an interesting mini-boss idea where it's, like, slowly eating away at the platforms you're on and stuff like that, which is vaguely similar to some of the stuff they do in X6, but not nearly as eloquently.
Oh god, I'm just remembering some of the shit we had to deal with in X5.
Yeah, also, while we're going up this shit. Little Demon of the Wasteland, Split Mushroom.
What wasteland?
I mean, if you look out over the... or out of the tower in the boss room. But yeah, this is just another instance of, like, I don't fucking care anymore, I just want to go. It's not worth it to try to stay and fight. You're better off just damage boosting.
And there's not even anything interesting here, it's just...
Here's wheels! Here's just wheels and shield walls. It's like, alright. This one is fun to get. I like this as an item.
It's nice that there's a utility weapon in this game.
Yeah, Lightning Web is really cool. Like, it's actually one of my preferred electric weapons in the series just because it's...
different?
Yeah, it's different, and I don't know. The only problem I have with it is later on I'll be using it against Sigma, and for whatever reason, even though it looks like it should hit him more than once, it doesn't. Which means it seems to only do damage, like, on contact the one time. It's like, but why, though? Like, it would be cool if it was a stone. But either way, it's not really that important right now. What is important is this slow-ass elevator. What other political stuff can you think of? It's like
General... Like, General just seems to be all for the war, apparently. Like, at no point is he like, okay, Colonel, shut the fuck up. Let me handle this. The fuck are you doing? It's just like...
That reminds me, actually. Jesus, I can't believe I didn't think of this when we were going through the actual cutscene. Oh my god, this is probably the worst part of the entire game. In the cutscene where they're like having the rally where it's like, alright, we're gonna build our own nation, like they labeled us as Mavericks. One of the exact word-for-word lines General uses is, but remember, this is neither about insurrection or rebellion against our human creators. And then they go blow up a city! It's like, what the fuck? Like, that's so literally backwards from what you just said a second ago that it just... What? Whose side are you on? What's your motivation? That line fucks the entire story. Just entirely.
I have no idea who's actually evil in this fucking game. I don't know what the fuck's going on outside of Sigma being
a dick.
Sigma.
Yeah, exactly. It's like Sigma is pulling strings and whatever. Like, that's fine. That would work as a plot device, except you still aren't infecting the general... I was gonna say general leader, but his name is literally... like, you're not infecting General or turning him to your side, you're just making him rebel, sort of, because he says it's not about rebellion. So it's really just, okay, well, if you're not hurting anybody, then go to space. Like, whatever. you're gonna be considered Maverick maybe, but like in this instance, it would be smarter for us to just let you go. Like just leave the planet, fuck it. Like if you're gonna be stubborn, fine. But then they're still antagonistic and X has to stop them from like blowing up cities and shit. And it's like, well, why though? And then you get, later on, you get dialogue from General, which I'll talk a little bit more about when it comes up, that again, I already mentioned, is like, he's still kind of peaceful, but then he's like, well, we have to fight. It's like, no, you literally don't!